Pike Central High School has been around for 50 years now. For many students, we can't imagine what it must have been like to be some of the first people to step through those doors. Fortunately for me, I was able to get some in-depth interviews with some of the first students of Pike Central. Needless to say, Pike Central was far from perfect at its beginning. But, with some help from the students inside, it has been molded to the school we know today. I spoke with Terry Whitehead to learn about what changes were made to the school in its toddler years. I'm here with Miss Terry Whitehead. Thanks for coming in and speaking with me. I just got a few questions I'm going to ask you just kind of about Pike Central. So what changes were made to the school in the first few years of its creation?
In the first few years? Well, actually when we started everything wasn't finished. When we first came out here, a lot of the auditorium, the gymnasium wasn't finished yet. So all those things happened while we were here. We didn't do sporting events out here because the football field wasn't finished. So we went to Petersburg for football games. We went to Petersburg for basketball games. So I guess the biggest changes would be from the time we came to the time we left in the spring, a lot of that stuff was finished. But those were the biggest changes. As far as, I don't know if you also want to know as far as the school I came from, I went to Otwell, and we're talking teeny tiny school. I was in the biggest class that ever went through that school, and it was 50. I came out here, my class was 181. So there was a big difference in going from there to here. And then changes from there to here included, we had no walls. So like when you walk down to A wing, everything between classes were bookcases. So if you stood up, you could look over into the next room. If somebody was getting in trouble, you could hear it in the class you were in. No walls, no doors. So
definitely a lot different than it is now.
Yes. I can't remember when the walls actually went up, but we went for several years without walls. So, but you just got used to it. So, yeah.
You kind of answered this next one, but what did the school look like back then?
Well, as I said, it actually, because of the walls, that made things different. But we didn't have the same front entrance that y'all have. I mean, it was there, but when you first walked in, there was just this big desk where the receptionist sat, and she directed you to the office or the classroom. So all that up front's changed. Classrooms have changed. The only thing that hasn't changed are the women's restrooms and D-wing, because those are they're exactly like they were when I went to school here 50 years ago. So
yeah, that's actually insane.
Yeah, they're exactly the same.
And then what's a favorite memory or like favorite fun fact kind of about Pike Central?
Well, I think it was fun when we first got here because we were meeting all kinds of new people. And we had a lot more opportunities here for different classes, different sports. I'm not thinking of anything specific right now as far as a fun fact. I don't know if you call it a fun fact, but I don't know if you know that at the time that we went here, smoking was a little more acceptable. And we actually had a smoking area outside that both teachers and students were allowed to use. So you could go outside the cafeteria and have a smoke break, which isn't a fun fact in that it wasn't very healthy, but it was just different back then. So.
Yeah. So you helped pick a bunch of the different colors and mascot and all that different stuff. So what does all those symbolize, or how did you come to?
Well, let me tell you. First off, what they did was they picked, I think it was 2 students from each high school grade level that would be coming out here like sophomore, because I was the first sophomore class. I graduated in the 3rd class. So it was sophomore, junior, seniors, and there were 2 from each class from each school, and we were the big committee. We sent out forms so that kids could write down what they wanted to do, and then our committee was the one who picked the final. So we picked the school song, we picked the mascot, we picked the school colors. And the school colors, Winslow was blue and white, so we picked white for Winslow. I'm sorry, Winslow was purple and gold, so we picked the gold for Winslow. We picked the white for Ottawa. They were blue and white. And then Petersburg was red and white, but we decided that instead of picking red, we picked the burgundy color, but that was for Petersburg because we were bringing everybody together. We wanted something that kind of was lasting from our schools.
As you just heard, Pike Central has undergone many changes and upgrades since its birth to become the school that it is today. I interviewed teacher Miss Elkins, who has seen the school evolve through the years.
All right, so what was it like coming to PC for the first time?
When the building opened up in 1974, gosh, that sounds so long ago, I was a freshman, so my class was the first class to graduate all 4 years from here. And interestingly, when we were in 8th grade, we were rivals with Otwell and Winslow, and no one was excited about coming together with these people that we always wanted to beat. And kind of ironically, my best friends, I'm kind of a Petersburg gal, and ironically my best friends were from Otwell and Winslow when I went through high school, so it all worked out. I remember the building was not completed, and we started late. We came later in September, so we were going to sporting events at that time. And of course you knew people that were on your teams, but if you went to a football game, I can remember them announcing somebody, and we were like, who's that? We didn't know each other yet. When we physically walked into school, the one thing that stood out to me about it not being completed were there were no ceiling tiles. And you could see the workings, the wires, and all the compressors and the things, they were working diligently to get us in, but it still was not done when we were there. A couple of other things, we did not have a gym the whole first year, and so being a freshman, that was a requirement, and my freshman PE ended up being divided between 2 sports all year. It was ping pong, and then it was also softball when the weather permitted. And we set the ping pong tables up in that hallway where Mr. Roy's room is and Mrs. Bailey and Curtis's office. That's pretty much where PE class was held. So all of our sporting events that needed fields, we were using the ones that already pre-existed. So that was just kind of my recollection.
All right, how has the school changed over the years?
Having been a student and then also coming back as a teacher, I have seen a lot of different facelifts that have taken place. When we first came in as students back in the early 70s, the big thing then was called open concept. And so we had no walls in any of our classrooms. And it was very distracting, as you can imagine. And the only thing that separated rooms in the A wing and different areas were bookshelves. And so you could hear what was going on in that entire area that was there. So eventually, we got to where it looks like it kind of does now. We've got walls in between. A few different things I think that are interesting is that parents couldn't check grades back then, which was kind of nice, when you were a kid. If you were a parent, it wasn't. There was no 360 for all of that type of stuff. We had, believe it or not, a student smoking area, because back in the 70s, that was not as big a deal. You guys are a lot smarter than we were back at that age. But if your parents gave you permission, you could go out at a certain time, designated time, and you could smoke. And our biggest thing back then, we fight cell phones now. Of course, we had a new building, we had carpet. Was, my goodness, should we let the kids chew gum or not? That was always the big controversy, was could they chew gum? Couldn't wear shorts back then. That didn't come around until probably the 80s or 90s. So, dress code things, those were a little bit different.
All right, what was your favorite interesting thing about Old Pike Central?
I think over the years, I'm kind of a sports fan, and Charger sports are my favorite. So it's just been following all of the sports. We've had, like all schools, we've had our good years and we've had our ups and our downs, but I was just thinking, there's not any sport that I can't think back, either when we were in school up until now, whether it's wrestling, swimming, tennis, basketball, volleyball, they've all had their conference championships, many sectional championships. And I think what's so fun from both a student point of view and a teacher point of view is when you've got a winning program like that and the community gets behind it, it just makes everything more fun. You know, there's nothing more fun than going to these championships and things of that sort. So another thing for me, having been a Charger for all these years, is it's been so fun for me to come back and teach, have colleagues that were former students. I've had many of my bosses, many of my principals, superintendents have been former students, and that has been fantastic for me. And then I think, kind of in conclusion, it's always fun to have the children of the former students that you've had. You know, when you first discover that's your dad and that's your mom, you know, it makes it kind of neat, and it's just an honor for me to continue to get to know the families in that way. So.
And now, a few extra fun facts about Pike Central. Pike Central used to have a large ditch where the fire lane is today. There used to be a large bridge across it that was called the moat. It was a big congregation area for the students. Lockers were also very different compared to today. They were in an L shape compared to the straight lockers that we have today. The lockers were also very skinny in width compared to the ones that we have now. The lockers also came with an above slot for books and such to be set inside of, which is really helpful compared to the slanted tops of today. Another interesting thing Pike Central used to do was the Ugly Legs contest. The male teachers would take a picture of their leg with a number next to it. The students would then vote on who had the ugliest looking legs, and the winner would be announced to the school. Pike Central didn't always have an intercom to play music through. Instead, the cafeteria had a jukebox installed so people could listen to sweet tunes while they were eating. Personally, I really wish this was still a feature installed in our cafeteria today. Pike Central used to have a very different way of discipline when it was built. Instead of writing someone up or talking to parents, a paddle was used to spank the student to get them to learn their lesson. However, some students wanted to have this happen just to say that they got paddled. Obviously, we can see the reason that this is not how things are done today. Prom was not always held in the middle school gym. Instead, the first prom in 1975 was in French Lick, and the 1976 prom was held in Jasper. It then continued to alternate between Jasper and Caper House in Huntingburg. As you've seen, the school has changed a lot in 50 years. But with the support from the community, staff, and students, the school has been molded to be the haven of education that it is today.